Hey, how's it going guys? Jack and Matt here with the Toasty Bros, and today we're bringing you a very expensive PC at $2,500.
And we purchased all these parts. We won this from a Newegg Shuffle, and we bought that at MSRP, well, MSRP. But before we talk about how we got this PC and how it's gonna be really freaking awesome, let's hear a word from today's sponsor.
Today's video is brought to you by Tonor and their TC30 USB condenser microphone. This mic is plug and play, features a cardioid pickup pattern to help eliminate unwanted background noise and capture a more natural sound, along with built-in anti-vibration shock mount. If you're looking to get into live streaming or just want to upgrade your gaming setup microphone and don't want to totally break the bank, the Tonor TC30 is absolutely the best option for you, especially if you want something that sounds really crisp and is easy to set up. This mic is also perfect for work from home setup, so if you're interested, check the link in the description down below to learn more, and special thanks again to Tonor for sponsoring today's video.
So one of the points of this video is we want to show you guys that you can build a really high-end PC at MSRP right now if you're patient enough and enter all the right things. So in our case, Newegg Shuffle, we were able to get this GPU motherboard combo, and then we just bought the other stuff separately, which really the only thing you can't get right now are GPUs, but as long as you just enter the right stuff, you can find them.
Newegg Shuffle is very random, don't get me wrong. You may or may not actually get something, but we've been very adamant. We've been doing it pretty much every single day, and we've been very successful at getting AMD cards more than NVIDIA cards. So if you're looking for one of these AMD cards, you have pretty good odds because I think the inventory of those is better. But yeah, how about we not waste any more time and talk about each individual part and how it makes up this PC build.
So for the CPU, we have the AMD Ryzen 7 5800X. This is an 8-core, 16-threaded processor, and it just felt like the right CPU to pair with the 6800 XT, but you could go with something like a 5600X and get really similar performance, but we're kind of going for like a streaming, editing, and gaming setup here, so we wanted it to be able to do everything, and we already spent so much money on everything else, we're like, we might as well spend 100, 200 more on the CPU. Now for the cooler, to cool this mighty beast right here, we have the Deepcool Captain 240 Pro V2. This should have RGB fans. Matt and I were really debating because for some reason they don't have them on in this picture, but it shows RGB fan, and I'm pretty sure I would have ordered one with RGB fans. So yeah, I think you can buy it with black fans as well, but this one should have the RGB fans, but it's a 240 ml liquid cooler. Should fit really well in this case that Matt will talk about, and it's definitely gonna keep the CPU plenty cool.
We are the RGB bros.
Yes. Now we also got this in the Newegg Shuffle. This is the X570 Aurorus Pro Wi-Fi. Now keep in mind with the Newegg Shuffles, they're not always the best price. Like I think for this and this was like half the budget almost, like $1,600 I wanna say. We'll obviously put in the video what it actually costs, but I know this motherboard was close to $300 alone, and we really would have not spent that much on a motherboard. But it's a really good motherboard. I mean, it's an X570 and it's, GIGABYTE, so all black. You have a nice VRM cooler, 4 RAM slots, obviously, lots of expansion. And these are high-end boards, so you kind of get what you pay for. You'd be able to overclock if you really wanted to, but I think this build will run just fine without it. Now for storage, we have XPG Spectrix D41. This is 3200 megahertz, 32 gigs of RAM. And don't be fooled by the 16 gigs. It's 16 times 2, which is 32 if my math's correct. But it's RGB because, the build has a lot of RGB going for it. So this should look really good when we're done. Now for storage, we went with the Team Group MP33 SSD. All these companies are competing right now for M.2 SSD prices. So between Crucial, Western Digital, Team Group, Silicon Power, Inland, you can pretty much get them all around the same price. Like a 1 terabyte, you can sometimes get for under $100. Like some of these go for $94.99 on sale. So make sure to keep an eye out for them. It's not Gen 4 or anything crazy, but at the same time, I mean, you really don't need Gen 4. This is already really fast, but keep in mind, you could go Gen 4 if you wanted to.
No, you can't.
No.
It's too late. You can't go back now.
You can't go back now.
This is the RX 6800 XT. But all jokes aside, this is the gem we won from the Newegg Shuffle. This is what we really wanted. This is the GIGABYTE variant that has 3 fans. It's gonna run nice and cool. And yeah, 6800 XT, it's an awesome card. It can play all the video games, anything you want, up to 4K if you want to. It's a really good competitor compared to the RTX 3080, which is really hard to get. So 6800 XT, very excited to be using it in this build. Now for the power supply, we have our favorite brand right now, the ARESGAME 850 watt. I believe this is a semi or full modular, semi-modular power supply. ARESGAME, use them a lot. This one's 80 plus gold, has a 10-year warranty. They have not failed us yet. We've used them in so many builds and we really like using them. Again, power supplies are subjective in a way. You can get whatever power supply you really want. We trust this one, we've used it a lot. We absolutely recommend you get it and try it for your next PC build, but always other options on the market. But yeah, very excited to use this 850 150 watts is enough for this PC build easily with a few upgrades here and there. So yeah, it's gonna be great. Now for the case, we have the Rosewill Spectra D100. Yes, that's right. It comes with these RGB fans pre-installed, a nice mesh front for some good airflow. And yeah, it's a pretty nice looking case, not super expensive. And what we decided to do for the first time here on the Toasty Bros, actually I feel like we've done it before, but in not many use cases, we're gonna do a vertical GPU mount. And this is a Phanteks riser cable. It was pretty well rated. I know riser cables can be kind of sketchy here and there, but Phanteks, reliable brand, should work really well. And we're gonna be able to display this beautiful graphics card right here, front and center. It's gonna look great. And yeah, of course the case supports it, because we wouldn't do it if it didn't support it. Yeah, all right, let's go and build this PC, shall we?
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, now that we have this PC all booted up and ready to go, let's talk about a couple benchmarks real quick. Now we decided to test this PC in a couple of titles, those being Fortnite, Call of Duty Cold War, Apex Legends, and Shadow the Tomb Raider. Now one thing to get out of the way, we had some issues with the PCI riser cable, which we'll talk about more in detail during the outro of today's video, so we had to benchmark this PC with the graphics card in the topmost slot without using the riser cable, so the normal mounting method. Long story short, we were having problems because we realized the 8X slot, was an 8X slot, and the PCI, bandwidth that you're getting from 8X slot wouldn't work very well, and that riser cable we have will not reach the top 16X slot, hence why we put it there in the first place. So if you're screaming at us during the time-lapse section while you watch that, that's a reason why. So do keep that in mind. We did not test it with the riser cable, but it will be fixed with a riser cable we did order that will replace it. First up, in Fortnite on performance mode at 1080p, we started to see some of the issues of performance mode on higher end PCs, only getting about 200 to 300 FPS. Sometimes in certain situations we were getting 500 to 600, but there was a lot of fluctuation between 200 to 600 FPS. So most of the time with higher end rigs, I really suggest just running on normal pro settings or the old pro settings, epic view distance, everything else on low. But I mean, you Fortnite pros are gonna do whatever you're gonna do, but for me, that gets the smoothest experience. But it's still a really awesome 1080p high refresh rate experience. You easily could use a 240Hz monitor with this setup, get a buttery smooth competitive gaming experience. Next up, in Call of Duty Cold War, we cranked everything up to ultra and ran at 1080p because the 6800 XT, let's be honest here, is more of a 4K 1440p gaming card, but at 1080p, we gotta make sure to crank up all those details to the max to make sure we're pushing this thing to its limits, and we got over 160 FPS, sometimes 200s on a Nuketown map, which is definitely no easy feat, especially with, well, any GPU for that matter. It's a really hard game to run, so I was very impressed to see that. And you could easily, again, upgrade to a 1440p monitor or 4K monitor and get a good 4K 60+ experience, a 1440p 144Hz experience, or a 1080p 240Hz experience. Whatever gaming experience you're looking for, this PC can certainly provide for it. Next up is Apex Legends, which is a little bit more difficult to run than Fortnite, so we like to add to the benchmark rotation. And with the FPS cap finally turned off, which actually I don't know if it's fully turned off, we're running at a max of 300 now as opposed to 144. Regardless, we were hitting close to that 300 FPS cap, but on average getting over 200 plus FPS on high settings. Apex Legends again is a little bit more demanding, but had no problem getting a couple kills and running around in Apex and, well, showing how powerful this setup is. You could save some money and go with a 5600X if you wanted to and take advantage of the lesser cores but somewhat faster cores compared to the 5800X, and it might make a little bit more sense. And also you could opt for some faster RAM. Instead of going 32 gigs at 3200 megahertz, maybe going 16 gigs at 3600 would be the best bang for buck, but 32 gigs 3600 was one really hard to find for us when playing this build, and also if we did find it, it was significantly more expensive, so in terms of value for money, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. And last but certainly not least is Shadow of the Tomb Raider. With the built-in benchmark tool on highest settings, we average 171 FPS. This PC can pretty much max out any AAA title you want. Again, it's a 6800 XT and a 5800X, and the fact that we personally were able to build this by buying all the parts off shelf, not paying ridiculous scalper prices, really goes to show that if you are patient, you can build this PC. Yes, it is more expensive. The MSRP of the actual card is more expensive, and we did have to get the X570 motherboard with it, but if you're planning an all new build and you don't have components yet, Newegg Shuffle, man, just be at it, be persistent, and you can score a brand new AMD GPU or NVIDIA GPU if you're really persistent enough. This is not sponsored in any way by Newegg. This is just something that we've done here at Toasty Bros and our other business PC bros to try to get our hands on these newer GPUs, and it has worked out for us. You just gotta be very consistent with it. So overall, I'm incredibly happy with this PC for the money, minus the PCI riser issue, which we are getting resolved. How we're going to bring Jackson back in here to wrap this video up real quick.
Alright guys, so as you can imagine, this PC did absolutely amazing. Now we did have a couple hiccups in building this PC, which we are going to tell you guys about, and we'll probably tell you a little bit earlier in the video before you guys comment about it.
So with the riser cable, we wanted to do a vertical GPU mount because we wanted to do something a little bit different. But of course, when we tried new things, things mess up. But with the riser cable, we had the problem where it was too short. It couldn't reach all the way up to the top 16X slot, which we thought the slot below was also 16X, but we didn't look close enough to realize it's only an 8X slot. So when that happened, we were trying to do some benchmarks and the system just was not going to work well at all. It was like stuttering within Windows. Games had so many issues. So we did decide to go ahead and order a new riser cable. Now Jackson's going to mention something else about it. Even though we're replacing it with a 3.0 riser cable, there are some other issues you need to consider.
So what we decided to do was we went from the Phanteks 3.0 cable, which was only 10 centimeters long. It would only reach the second slot. So I got a 20 centimeter thermal take cable that reaches the top slot, but it is 3.0. Now that basically means that it's PCI Express 3.0. So that means you're not going to get like full capacity out of your graphics card that's 4.0 and your motherboard that's 4.0, but after doing some research, I realized it's about a 1 to 2% performance decrease. So basically you're gonna get about the same FPS average in most games, and it's still gonna look really nice. I really didn't want to go back to just going with a normal horizontal mount when we did all this work getting the nice vertical mount. And you can buy 4.0 risers, but they are triple the price. If you're looking at close to $80, they don't look as nice. And on top of that, a lot of the reviews that I was reading, people were saying they're really just disguised 3.0 cables. So I really don't know if there's like a true 4.0 cable out or not. But realistically, most cards can't fully utilize 4.0 yet anyways. So we think it'll be just fine using the top slot with a 3.0 cable.
And if you want to just avoid this entire headache, don't do what we did and just put it in the top slot. There you go. Super simple. Don't use that riser cable, but be sure to use those links in the description down below for all the parts for today's build, just minus the riser cable. There are affiliate links and they do help us out.
So if you guys haven't already, don't forget to check out our other 2 YouTube channels and also our twitch.tv/toastybros. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
We'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.
So Matt, I had a simple question. I want to buy this computer. Can I buy it?
PCBros.tech, yes, we are gonna be selling this computer. It will be a local pickup only, most likely.
It'll be sold by then, too.
But it'll probably be sold by then also, so sorry, sad face. But check out PCBros.tech. Always take a look at that website. If you wanna potentially buy a PC from us, we'll always list them after we film the video, so you can potentially get a good deal. So yeah, PCBros.tech. See you guys later. Bye.